got to be detailed, precise, and informed.
That's DPI.
Welcome back, everybody, to That's DPI. I'm Zach, and that is Tyler over there. And we have another great off-season episode for you guys. Some big ref news just dropped yesterday. And, of course, the ref guys are going to talk about it. Plus, we're going to talk a little bit of stadium updates as some rumblings about the Chiefs and Chicago and all of these stadiums has prompted us to want to address how stadiums are progressing going forward in the NFL and how Super Bowl hosting works in stadiums. And then alongside that, I'm going to make Tyler play a game, whether to see if he can guess the stadium seating chart, which Tyler is over the moon about. And then
I'm so excited for it.
And then we'll preview the schedule release, which is happening next Thursday, as I predicted in last episode. So we're excited for all the content, but let's get right into the ref news of the week. Tyler, what happened yesterday?
The refs ended the potential lockout, and a 7-year agreement has been signed by the NFL Refs Union and the NFL itself. 7 years is a lot, so they do not want there to be any potential of another lockout anytime soon. It was horrible last time, and it got a little dicey this time. So, Zach, what happened in these terms? What do we know about these terms?
Sure. So not the full details were not yet released of these terms, but some important things that we covered and really wanted addressed were announced. So the NFL will get increased access to the referees in the offseason during minicamps and joint practices. So that is a big thing the NFL wanted. They wanted more offseason training, and it seems like they're going to get that. Additionally, this is some stuff that wasn't even on our radar as people covering this collective bargaining agreement. The NFL will develop a bench of officials, and that's not like, a Supreme Court justice bench. That's like starter and bench level refs. And then evidently the NFL is going to use performance metrics that they've never used before to determine whether referees can continue to ref into the playoffs. In addition to that, there was announcements of the NFL caving on the 10% raises and the 30% raise for refs reffing a Super Bowl, but that has not been confirmed. So the NFL is clearly making a commitment to have the refereeing quality be better by increasing training, increasing sub-out ability of some referees. I think it's a great move for the NFL, and they prevent replacement refs from ever touching the field, which is a big win.
100% on that one. So I want to talk more about that bench of officials. So yes, you mentioned that it's not like a Supreme Court of officials that decide all this. What does that mean?
Well, I was mostly just making...
Who is it? Is it the officials that are helping determine it, or is it another subcommittee of the league?
I was mostly making a joke that the word bench is being used as in like bench and starters. But if we're talking about who's negotiating on behalf of the referees, it is the president of the NFL Referees Union, the NFLRA, and that is Carl Sheffers. He negotiates on behalf of the referees, which, yes, roll your eyes, Chiefs fans.
No wonder their demands were so stupid at the beginning. Jeez.
But yeah, they had been negotiating for over 2 years, and so they finally reached this agreement. So we can imagine that the NFL caved on the pay, but they got what they wanted, because I think one thing I forgot to mention is that they're still going to be able to use performance to determine the referees that get playoff assignments, not seniority, which was a massive point of contention that the referees wanted it to be like, well, we're senior, we're 30-year refs, we want to do the playoffs. But that's not how the NFL wants it, because they want the playoffs to be refed really well. And aside from like one or two calls, I think both you and I mentioned how satisfied we were with the refereeing in the playoffs. We thought it was really high quality. There were just a few really debatable calls that got a lot of attention, luckily for our channel. But, I think the rest of the refereeing was really high quality. So I think the NFL does a great job for the postseason.
Even those controversial calls from this postseason, it was like, did Adams catch a pass in a game that was not decided by that catch whatsoever?
Well, really, it was the Broncos.
It was
Bills
very
won. The Broncos.
Yeah,
Bills won.
no, 100%.
That was it.
100%. But yeah, it was a good offseason for officials. I'm okay with them being paid more because I think that the training's going to improve. It sounds like they have a lot more access to officials in the offseason now as a result. So if you're going to bring them in for more stuff, more training, more review, whatever, then yeah, they're going to get paid a little bit more too. So I'm okay with that.
Right.
The NFL is a multi-billion-dollar company. They can pay officials.
Right.
That's fine by me.
And we mentioned last week, if you didn't watch that episode, that they were getting close, right? Because they released assignments for the referees, even though there was no bargaining agreement reached. So we knew that it was close. We kind of delayed this episode in the hopes that we could get to cover this, and it worked out so well because they announced it yesterday. We had this scheduled to go in on Saturday, so it was perfect. But one thing I did want to cover is it is really sad that we won't get to see the official in the sky that they were going to institute if the replacement refs had become a thing, because I think that was the closest step to the NFL doing things like the MLB is doing right now. The MLB's review system, Tyler and I have been to a few MLB games this year, is lights out. Some of the best changes that MLB has made in some time. It works perfectly. And if the NFL can find a way to utilize technology to make reviews quicker and more absolute like that, I think that they should. And it's sad that they're not going to get to use the official in the sky this year. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's bittersweet for me because yes, I would love to see how they use officials in the sky and what's considered a bad enough call that the official in the sky can come down and reverse it. But on the other hand, there is a reason that rule is even put in place. Replacement officials are horrid. I don't think a missed holding penalty is going to be enough for an official in the sky to come in, but obvious holding penalties are something that a non-replacement official would catch that would definitely affect the outcome of certain drives. So overall, it is much better that they have this agreement. 7 years is a lot. So I'm curious on who wanted it to be more of a longer contract. I'm curious if that was the refs union wanting protection or if that was the NFL not wanting to deal with this every 3 years.
It's interesting that you say that because the quote at the end of the ESPN article from Carl Sheffer says, "We see this new collective bargaining agreement as a partnership with the league that benefits our membership but also seeks to make the game better. It's good to get these negotiations behind us so we can focus on preparing for the 2026 season." So it seems like the refs didn't want to drag this out much longer than they did. And I imagine the NFL was in the same boat, although they seemed quite prepared to go without the refs. So it's very interesting, the dichotomy there. But I think that the 7-year agreement benefits the refs because it kicks the can down the road for how the refs can strong arm them essentially, because the league, the big power the refs have is not working because there's so few good ones, and the league would have to use replacement officials, which they do not want to do. They were actively implementing rules to circumvent the replacement officials because they don't want to use them. So I think it definitely benefits the league and was probably the league's idea to extend it that long.
Well, and I think it benefits the refs too, because especially if the reports are accurate that the refs are going to get a significant pay raise, 7 years before you can be like, we've paid them too much.
Well, not only that, the negotiation said 10-year annual raises. For 7 years, that's 70%. That's pretty dang good. That I think that you and I would very much not complain if that was our 7-year plan for our jobs, right?
Literally.
But I don't know if there's too much else to say on the referee front, so we can move on to your segment about stadiums and kind of the upcoming buzz surrounding stadiums. I'll let you kind of talk about what stadiums may be on the horizon, and then we can maybe talk about stadiums hosting Super Bowls, and then we'll get into the game. How's that sound?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason that I wanted to bring this up is, I don't know if you saw this, Zach, but there's an article that came out about how Miami, who's hosted 11 Super Bowls, Hard Rock Stadium specifically has hosted 11 Super Bowls, will not host another Super Bowl because of different things that they've done around the area due to the F1 races. Did you see that?
I did not. No, this is interesting.
They were talking to the owner. They're talking to the Miami Dolphins owner, and he kind of admitted that Hard Rock Stadium is not going to get another Super Bowl anymore because it no longer meets the criteria to host a Super Bowl. And the owner particularly talked about that because they've done stuff around the stadium to accommodate for F1 races, they no longer meet the criteria. Which made me think, what is the criteria for hosting Super Bowls? And it's always kind of been a thing about, I think it's always been like something to do with like infrastructure. It apparently development around the stadium is an important factor. Which do you have that graphic by chance?
Yeah, here I can pull it up for you.
I'm kind of going in reverse order, actually. We're talking about Super Bowls and then the potential new Super Bowls. So this is a graphic of all of the active stadiums that have hosted a Super Bowl. Hard Rock hosted a Super Bowl in the late 80s there, right after it opened. So the yellow line there on that graphic is stadiums that hosted their first Super Bowl in their second year of existence. So I'm not crazy when I'm talking about Arrowhead hosting in the second year. There's legitimacy to all of those stadiums hosting in their second year. Hard Rock will no longer be on that list, though, even though they've been in a consistent rotation. So it tells me that one of the criteria, like I've said, is development around the area. I toured Minnesota a couple years ago, who hosted in 2018 after opening up in, I'm sorry, they hosted in 2017 season after opening up in 16. One thing that the tour guide said there is that at the time anyway, one of the criteria for hosting a Super Bowl was that the stadium has to hold 72,000 seats. But the Minnesota Vikings stadium didn't hold that much, didn't hold up to 72,000. So every seat was on a railing. It was on like a little rail. And then when they would host a Super Bowl, they would just kind of squeeze the seats in a little bit along that rail so they could fit the number on the criteria. I think it's very fascinating.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And all of that kind of, and this chart tells me a little bit more about the Chiefs Stadium. To me, this solidifies that the Chiefs, who will open up a brand new stadium in 2031, will host a Super Bowl in their second year. That's a very good realistic, but they will all, this chart also tells me that they will never host again because there are 5 NFL stadiums that have hosted, active NFL stadiums that have hosted a Super Bowl and did not host again. And all of them are cold climate stadiums with the exception of AT&T. Ford Field in Detroit, Detroit's cold in the winter. It's freezing in the wintertime. Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, the Midwest is very cold in the wintertime. So is New York City, and so is Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I was thinking, why is the Cowboys not hosted again? And the only reason I can think is there's nothing really in that area. There's a little Texas Live District, but then it's so far away from Dallas. It's so far away from Fort Worth. There, with the exception of that little Texas Live District, there's nothing around the stadium. And this is where we enter Hard Rock again. Due to them kind of taking stuff away so that they could have Formula One stuff, there's not much around the stadium anymore. Those consistent repeats of the stadium, New Orleans, that's downtown New Orleans. That's right off from the French Quarters and Bourbon Street. SoFi Stadium, Los Angeles. There's so much to do. That stadium is almost like a campus. Downtown Atlanta as well. A lot to do there. The Allegiant Stadium for the Raiders, right off the strip of Vegas. Those things where there's so much to do around the stadium will be your consistent repeats of the Super Bowl. The new Chiefs Stadium is going to be at like the Legends in Kansas City. It's going to be so far away from downtown. They might end up getting a 10-year rotation, but probably not just because Kansas City is also cold in the wintertime. But they will host Final Fours occasionally.
There's a stadium that I'm not seeing that kind of bucks your trends slightly. And I know that you know the answer to this, so I just kind of want you to explain it to me because I forget. Why does New Highmark Stadium not get a single Super Bowl? Is it because it's not a dome?
A lot of that is where it comes down to infrastructure, along with other things to do around the stadium as well. We've seen Buffalo have that lake effect where snow can come in and you've got 10 feet of snow on the ground. Even if they build a domed stadium, people that have spent $10,000, $12,000 for a Super Bowl ticket don't want
Can't
to
get around.
shovel
Yeah.
10 feet of snow. Yeah. And also, as you and I went to Buffalo last year, it's not in Buffalo. It's in Orchard Park. It's so far away from everything to do in Buffalo. If you even think there's stuff to do in Buffalo, I'm sure there's some stuff to do that besides Niagara Falls. But the infrastructure in Buffalo does not have. And when I say infrastructure, I mean kind of like hotels in the area. They don't have enough hotels that the NFL would like to see. They don't have the public transit that the NFL wants to see, and they certainly don't have the area around the stadium that the NFL wants.
Yeah, Orchard Park is pretty barren. So
And that's even if it was a dome.
right. And so do you think that that same fate would befall a stadium in Arlington Heights like the Chicago Bears are considering? Or even a city in what would it be, Indiana?
Yeah, and Gary, if they build in Arlington Heights, I think it'll be like Kansas City. I think they will host one Super Bowl. So Chicago does have the public access, or meaning like the public transit system. They do have a lot of things to do in Chicago. It's a very rich market. The problem comes back to weather. Very similar to Indianapolis. Indianapolis had the stadium's right downtown. It's a nice little area. There's parking. There's hotels all around. Um, but I really think the weather is something that the NFL wants a lot because Minneapolis is also downtown. There's lots to do in Minneapolis. There's hotels, there's bars, there's restaurants, but it's cold in the Midwest. They
Got
like
it.
their sunny beaches of Los Angeles and Miami and Tampa Bay and the fun things to do in New Orleans. That's what the NFL likes.
Gotcha. Okay, and that makes a lot of sense. So the Chiefs in Chicago would probably be in this one and done category like Ford and Lucas
Mhm,
Oil.
mhm.
And even
The
US Bank, which is a really, really nice stadium. I think it tops your list, right?
Yeah,
For second.
I think it's number one on my list of
As
stadiums
an
that I've been
amazing
to.
stadium, but it sucks because the location is just so barren, wasteland, winter cold, right? So
And that's the thing is that it's that weather. The one stadium that I want to add before we move on to is the new Titan Stadium. That opens up next year. Now, the Titan Stadium will not host in their second year in existence because we already know the location's 3 years out. So we know that the Titan's second year in existence is already going to be, I think it's going to be SoFi again. But I do expect that the next Super Bowl announcement will be announcing Nashville. And that could be an interesting one because Nashville, the Titan Stadium, their current one and their new one, is downtown. Broadway Street is absolutely amazing in Nashville, Tennessee. And the weather's not bad. You might be able to speak more on the weather there. So I've only been to Tennessee in the fall, but it wasn't bad. I don't know what their weather's like in the wintertime.
it's more temperate than Detroit and Chicago, but it's by no means a warm weather state in the winter.
Okay. So Tennessee could be a nice 10-year rotation. Levi Stadium's a 10-year rotation. I believe the Falcons, Mercedes-Benz going to be a 10-year rotation. I can see the new Titan Stadium being a 10-year rotation, meaning they host the Super Bowl once every 10 years because Nashville is fun. There's certainly lots to do. The transit's not horrible. I mean, it's Nashville. They don't have a subway system, but if you're in downtown, you can kind of get by without a transit system.
Yeah, I was gonna say the location really
temperate weather.
usurps that just because it's so
Mhm.
central, right?
Absolutely.
But speaking of stadiums, I think that we're safe to move on to the most anticipated thing for Tyler to this point, and that is a stadium guessing game. This is something we've had
Yes.
on the back burner for quite some time, but Tyler is on a quest to visit all 32 active NFL stadiums. He's actually visited some that have already closed down and will be closing down, Highmark and others. I mean, we covered that one, but there's been more prior to that's DPI.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get
Coliseum
together.
being one as well.
That's right. And I wanted to get a few stadiums together without like the names or anything and see if how many Tyler could guess, because Tyler did this to me earlier in the year with referees, and I did better than I thought I did. I could, and so I want to see if Tyler can get all of these right. So we're going to start with stadium number 1.
So this is just the seating chart. Oh, that's that's the Titans.
It is Nissan Stadium in Nashville. That didn't take long.
Immediately.
I wanted to start with a layup.
Okay.
Because you have been to Nissan Stadium.
I've been to Nissan Stadium. My complaint with Nissan Stadium was that it almost felt like a cookie cutter stadium. So seeing the end zones having no mezzanine or upper level on either end and it being perfectly symmetrical either way, that's more what tells me that this is Nissan Stadium, is that perfect symmetry, no mezzanine or upper level in the end zones. The Buccaneers Stadium also has that on one end zone, but it's a little bit differently. Just the way that those corners look in the stadiums are my special interest. But the way that corner is just, I know it's Nissan.
Gotcha. So I knew that this was one that you had visited. So these are some warm up stadiums. It gets harder as it goes along. So stadium number 2. Please don't get it in Denver? 2 seconds. Dang it!
I got it right away. This is Denver. I can tell it's Denver. The thing with Denver is in the green there, with it being a smooth oval all the way around, but yet it's clearly have more rows in both the end zone and the sidelines. This gives Denver that like almost wavy look in the upper level, and it's super cool. And then that one end zone having like a mezzanine but not an upper level. This is where you're going to see the scoreboard and the Bronco on top of it. See where it gaps in a little bit on the right? That's where the scoreboard is, and that famous Bronco on top. But that wavy upper level is what gives it away for Denver.
Right. Once again, another stadium that you visited, I think, multiple times.
I've been there we will move on twice. Yes.
To a more difficult stadium. Hopefully. This is one you're going to have to think on, I hope.
So it's down to 2. Right at the bat, there are 2. Seeing no mezzanine. I mean, there's a little mezzanine on that south part or the bottom part. But I'm seeing 3 levels of like suites and press box there at the bottom. That would, to me, narrow it down to either Levi Stadium or Ford Field, being the 49ers and the Lions. I think the 49ers have more of a gap in that upper level, so I'm going to guess Ford Field in Detroit.
Ford Field is correct. Wow.
Yes.
Ball knower. I knew I'd stump you with this one because you don't look at Ford Field very often. We haven't visited it yet. We really want to, but the Lions are so dang good, it's so expensive. But man, I'll let you talk about it.
The only reason I think I was able to get this is because we haven't looked at Detroit. I have looked at Detroit. Part of the reason that I know these based on the seating chart is because I'm constantly looking at tickets. Where did the Chiefs play? What does that look like? Oh, this is a primetime matchup. Like, I wonder what the prices even are. So I see the seating charts, and the Lions last season played a home game in Detroit while I was on winter break. So I was like, is this a possible trip to go on? So I did kind of look at the seating chart and ticket prices a lot for Ford Field.
Got it. But you didn't get 2 seconds, but you are still 3 for 3. So we will move on to stadium number 4.
Oh, I know it. And what gives it away is that openness in the end zone there on that lower level. This is Gillette Stadium in New England.
Darn it. 4 for 4. Yes, this is Gillette Stadium, another one you haven't visited.
I have not visited Gillette Stadium. That open air stadium gives it away.
Wow.
Or that, not open air, that open part on the left side in the end zone.
Interesting.
I think that's the only stadium that has I think that is the only stadium that doesn't have a complete lower level.
Interesting. Okay. So what is that used for? Do you happen to know while we're on Gillette Stadium?
That's where the locker rooms are. So rather than having like a tunnel, the players, or at least one of the teams, their locker room is right underneath that green part. Yeah, there's a tunnel there. I believe that's the tunnel for the away team.
Oh.
And then the Patriots will come out of the part that is open. That's their team stuff. The buses will be up here. You can't see my mouse, but like at the back part, I believe that's where the Patriots come out.
Got it. Okay, interesting. So on to Stadium 5.
Okay.
This one might be more difficult, I hope.
So I think I know it.
It's also configured for the World Cup, by the way.
Yes, but seeing that it's almost a circle there with the upper level being significant. No. This is not New
Stumped him.
Orleans. This is
I
the
stumped
Raiders.
him.
This is the Raiders.
Dang
It's the
it! It's the
Raiders, right?
Raiders. It is the Raiders. It's Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Yes. Wow.
I was about to say the Saints because of the circular, but then what the Saints have is they do have an upper level all the way around,
This is
but
blowing
like
my
Denver,
mind.
it like curves a little bit with the circle. So seeing the breakup between the mezzanine levels and the upper level with a thin upper level nonetheless too. This tells me that it's the Raiders. We covered the architecture of the Raiders earlier this season too.
We did. So this will be very similar.
That one almost stumped
to
me, but
Kansas
yes.
City.
This almost stumped me because the circuit part made me think New Orleans, but yeah, the breakup of that upper and mezzanine tells me it's Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah, so this is Allegiant. So, dang, this next one, it was more just a fun one.
The Coliseum.
This is the Coliseum, yeah.
That's the Oakland Coliseum, which, in my opinion, in my opinion, the Oakland Coliseum was the worst multi-purpose stadium to exist. I'm gonna get a lot of hate in the comments for that one. Be like, it's such a beautiful stadium, it just got outdated, whatever. No. In baseball, it had so much foul territory that you were so far away from the action. And in football, you're so far away behind home plate, or not home plate, but you're so far away from the sideline that you're so far away from the action. There's so much space behind the sideline. In my opinion, the best multi-purpose stadium to ever exist was Candlestick Park. That's the one stadium
What about
that I'll, of
Bobcat
course, never get to
Stadium?
go to because it's what's that?
What about Bobcat Stadium?
Bobcat Stadium. Listen, so what Zach's referencing is that, and I've said that the Coliseum is the worst multi-purpose stadium. So in my Minecraft world, I'm really showing how much of a nerd I am with this game and this right now. But in my Minecraft stadium, I was like, I don't like the Coliseum. I could build a better multi-purpose stadium. And then in my opinion, I did. So, but the Coliseum, as beautiful as it is, and as much charm as it had, I just don't like how far away from the action you are in every single sport. Candlestick, while it was a little bit crooked, you were near the action. You were completely near the action in both sports. Love Candlestick Park. Love the design of that.
Yeah, so in the end, you went 6 for 6.
Yeah.
I did get you a few times. You had to decide between Levi's and Ford. You had to decide between New Orleans and Allegiant.
You almost stumped me with Allegiant.
And I almost threw in Raymond James in there, but then you said something about, oh, I know Tampa Bay has this architecture. I'm like, well, son of a gun. Like, glad I didn't throw in Raymond James. But yeah, I really wanted to throw in one for Old Municipal Stadium for Kansas City, but I couldn't find a good seating chart. I thought that might stump you, but I was telling you, I'll throw in some old historic ones. Maybe I'll do some historic stadiums like Candlestick or like the Silver Dome of Detroit, and we could see if you can get a part 2 of this at some point. Maybe whenever we do some more stadium news, I'll put together another slideshow for you. But good job, Tyler. You did.
Thank you.
I honestly expected you to get 6 of 6. So.
And the one thing that also shows is that football stadiums are a lot more unique than I think they get credit for. Obviously, the MLB has the most unique ballparks because the field is different. You can have, like, I'm not saying that it's the MLB. That's obvious. But football stadiums, despite having the exact same dimensions of field, have a lot more uniqueness and charm than people give them credit for. And that's part of why I'm on the quest to go to all of the NFL stadiums, is to see that charm of the architecture and also experience the crowd as well. It's just a good way to travel to and see the country. So
yeah, I mean, we experienced the heck out of that at Orchard Park, because what a unique stadium and crowd atmosphere. It was like 40-mile-an-hour gusting wind, like freezing cold, snowing at our tailgate, and I Didn't hear a single complaint from anybody around us. Everyone was having so much fun. There was hot chocolate
Yeah.
in the stands. Like, it was a wonderful experience, even though that will be no more, right?
Yeah. The new Highmark I've heard is going to be all of the charm of the old Buffalo. So that outdoor, the weather's
Open
going to
air, yeah.
affect you. You're gonna be in snow, but with just a new 21st century charm and luxury to it. I've
Bathrooms
also heard, and we have heard the bathrooms. Someone in the bathrooms at Orchard Park was like, "Yeah, the new stadium's gonna have like the most urinals
per
like per
seat.
seat ratio." Like,
That was incredible. I was like, really?
it was great.
You guys
I've
care
also
about your
heard, and
bathroom?
we've seen how tall it is too. We've seen how tall the stadium
Huge.
is. I've heard that there will be no wind in that stadium because that swirling winds makes Buffalo go wide right a few times.
Well, yeah, I don't think the Super Bowl was played in Buffalo, but it did in
No,
the
but
Chiefs game.
It did in the Chiefs game.
Yeah.
So,
in the
but,
Super Bowl, I
and
think it was
that
wide
is a
left
hard
too,
thing.
or was it? No, I
No,
think
it was
they were
wide right.
both wide right.
It was wide right both times.
Yeah, but interesting. So I just love chatting stadiums. There's so much to chat. Of those stadiums, I know that you've only visited a few of them. I mean, which one is your favorite? Is it because US Bank wasn't on there? So which one of those stadiums that I showed was your favorite?
Sure. So I've been to 13 stadiums. I'm gonna try and hit 16 by the end of this year. Maybe a little that's DPI on location hint. So of the 13 I've been to, my favorite, which I don't think is the best on my ranking, but my favorite is weirdly enough State Farm Stadium, home to the Cardinals. The reason I love that stadium is because there's something to do for everyone in that pregame. So what State Farm Stadium has is they call it like the big lawn on the west side of the stadium, and that is full of like family friendly atmosphere. Okay, they've got like live music playing. There's photo opportunities. Like the mascot and cheerleaders are around. There's like food and games. It's a lot of fun. So like, if you bring kids, perfect spot, and it's a massive spot too, so it's not crowded. If you are like us without children and you just kind of want to tailgate, there's a lot of parking. You can rent a car down in Phoenix, and there is a lot of parking. So it's not like Dallas where there's only a few spots and parking is like $1,000 for a space.
$1 billion.
Yeah, literally, it's not like that. There's a lot of parking, so parking's very well priced, and so you can go tailgate. There's also a lounge area because the Cardinals typically play in the second slate of games in the afternoon. So there's a little lounge area with a cash bar and like luxurious like couches that it's with like a covered awning and like TVs all around that you can like get some drinks and you can watch the early slate of games. So I've never seen a pregame atmosphere like that outside of Titletown in Green Bay, which is one of my other favorites. Titletown's super cool. I know you don't like the Packers because you're a Lions fan, but Titletown's super cool.
I really
with all
want
the
to visit
bars
Lambeau. Yeah,
and the restaurants there. Yeah, I mean Lambeau's up there as well with one of my favorites. So is AT&T. It's got a lot of luxury, a lot of cool pregame stuff on each side of the stadium too.
Yeah, I think if they replace the refs in AT&T Stadium, I'd like it a lot better.
I think if you had went to a game where, like the Lions weren't
I
playing,
thought it was really nice.
I think you would have loved the stadium.
I did. I honestly, I gave it above an 8 because it was super luxurious. Honestly, good pregame too. Not as good as Arizona, but like the cheerleaders still came out. There's still great drinks floating around. And I thought our view from our nosebleed, really expensive seats was good. Just the pricing of everything was Jerry World pricing. You're paying the Jerry tax, which is the worst part of the stadium.
100%. This year, I would love to make it down to either Miami or Atlanta when the Chiefs go play, because the Chiefs play in Miami and Atlanta on the road. And typically, I don't like going to Chiefs road games. When I first started this quest, I was with a buddy of mine from high school who was a Broncos fan. Me being a Chiefs fan, him being a Broncos fan, we made an agreement that we aren't going to go to those games. We're going to go to support the home team. And in doing so, we really liked the atmosphere and being able to do that. That's where when we went to Buffalo, they played the Buccaneers, so we were rooting for the Bills. I did go to the Chiefs versus Packers Sunday night game. So I have been to one Chiefs road game, and I want to expand that to 2 this year to go to either Chiefs at Dolphins or Chiefs at Falcons. And we are going to know that schedule next Thursday.
Yes.
We'll know the Lions schedule, and we will know your favorite team. You, audience member, your favorite team's schedule will get released Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
And, we are going to be on the case. We're going to try to get a video out that next day talking about the schedule release, the prime time games, whether the Chiefs have a Christmas game or not, and a schedule prediction, because that's really the first time you can make that prediction, because we know all the teams we play. We just don't know when we play them. Like the Lions have a game in Munich next year. We don't know when that's going to be or who it's against. So we are going to try to get you guys a schedule prediction and a schedule breakdown video, even though I will be on island time in Hawaii, but that does not stop. That's DPI. Let it be heard. I will be still breaking down the NFL schedule, but yeah, lots to discuss next week for sure.
Absolutely. While we're kind of before we go, we still got a couple minutes. You guys have 9 home games next year. Is there any prediction or hope as to who you guys will have on Thanksgiving? Because of course you guys are gonna have a home Thanksgiving game as you do every year.
Yeah, it is my hope that we don't have a division rival on Thanksgiving, because for 2 years in a row it's been Chicago and Green Bay. I had a lot of fun when the Thanksgiving game was against Buffalo a few years ago. It was a great game, one of the first in the Jared Goff era, and it was almost a comeback win. Actually, I think that was in 2022, because the Lions were on like a crazy win streak to make the playoffs right at the end, and I think they were a half game away from the 7th seed. So I would really like it to be not a division rival, but my prediction is the Carolina Panthers, I think, are going to come to town and play Detroit on Thanksgiving.
Ooh, okay. Panthers. My prediction for that would be the Buccaneers. Although Zach, I hate to break it. You guys actually don't play the Panthers at home.
Dang it!
It's your home rival. I'm sorry. Sorry to break that to you. You guys do play the Panthers, but it's on the road.
It's on the road.
Your non-divisional opponent, and I'm looking at it right here. Your non-divisional opponents at home are New Orleans, Tampa Bay,
New England,
both New York teams. New Orleans, Tampa Bay, both New York teams, New England, and Tennessee. So my prediction would be, if it's not a divisional opponent, would be Tampa Bay. I think that's just been a good matchup for you guys the last couple of years.
Well, I will adjust my prediction because now I have another opinion. So something that happened last year with Kansas City is that they got both a Thanksgiving game and a Christmas game, which do not count as primetime. When you're factoring in a team's limit of 6 per year. The Chiefs had 8, counting Thanksgiving and Christmas, because they aren't technically primetime games. The Lions have never, the Thanksgiving game has not counted as primetime ever for the Lions. And so I think they're going to call New England. I'm going to call New England to town to manufacture a 7th primetime game for the defending defending AFC champions.
Ooh.
I think that they're going to utilize that. Since they played Detroit at home, it's an easy way to manufacture a home game for that team.
Is it not considered primetime just because it's not like in the evening? Is the definition of primetime just an evening game?
No, it's all about the way that they allocate Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night football games. So I maybe it's related to timing, but I don't think the afternoon game on Thursday counts either. They're just the holiday games exist in their weird limbo state where I don't think any of them count. But maybe the night one counts because they shoehorned the Chiefs in the afternoon game, and that didn't count either, right? Because the Chiefs would not have been able to play a primetime game because they were already at their allotted 6. That's why they got both holiday games.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's super interesting, and it was talked about a lot.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was talked about a lot because you guys got squeezed into a lot of primetime games because you guys were the talk of the NFL, essentially, right? So we will have to see. My prediction is now New England. I am ignorant of our home opponents this year.
Okay.
But you said Tampa, so I don't hate that at all. Tampa and Detroit is always a great game. It's been a kind of a little rivalry since, before that NFC divisional game round game in 2023. So definitely a fun matchup that the NFL would want to show off to an international audience, or I guess national audience. But I think that's about all we have for you guys this week. Make sure to tune in next week for the schedule release and our schedule predictions.
Appreciate you guys.